Because he always was that active and that defending.
I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Come on.
Arsenal eye 40 million rated Ajax midfielder Mohamed Kudus, 22, but must first offload several first-team players after their 200 spending spree this summer. Attacking midfielder Mohamed Kudus joined Dutch giants Ajax in 2020. The 22-year-old has attracted attention after impressing in the Eredivisie. Kudus has bagged 23 goals and provided 11 assists in 84 games with the side. Arsenal, let's pause this for a sec. Once again, Arsenal are interested in Ajax's 40 million rated midfielder Mohamed Kudus, but we have to obviously trim Mikel Arteta's squad before adding to our 200 million spending spree. We all know we've signed Kai Havertz, Declan Rice and Timber, and they're obviously part of the American tour. Eddie will now turn his attention to outgoings with Kieran Tierney, Cedric Suarez, Nicolas Pepe, Albert Lokonga, Albert Sambi Lokonga, better yet, Nuno Tavares and Rob Holding among those attracting interest that could tempt Arsenal into selling. Naturally, with the spending and just in terms of building our squad, we probably were going to put all our early intentions to getting Timber, Havertz and Declan Rice through the door, obviously be part of the American tour, gelling with the squad and what Mikel Arteta demands of them on a football pitch. And we all know to go with giving the Salibas, the Martinellis, the Sakas new deals, obviously Ramsdale as well, Eddie Nketiah last season, Reece Nelson also this year. We knew we had to focus and bringing in, for that matter, Kai Havertz and Declan Rice and Timber. The wage bills going up. We need to trim the squad on the tactical front and from a business point of view. And unfortunately, you know, various degree of reasons why these players could depart the club. At this moment in time, you'd imagine Lokonga, Tavares holding a surplus to requirements, Nicolas Pepe and Cedric Suarez, it goes without saying. Where Kieran Tierney's concerned, a bit like Balogun, I think, you know, the club ideally would want to hold on to them, but for one reason or another, if there's an offer they can't turn down, then they'll do exactly that and look to move them on, people. We're still early in the transfer window. I know, you know, a lot of moves have been done early, but it is the calm before the storm. The market is going to explode in the next few weeks to come. We all know Thomas Partey's future is subject to speculation. It's understood Arsenal are not eager to sell the Ghana international this summer, with only a huge offer likely to entice the North London club into sanctioning his departure. Quality in terms of Partey's quality, he's never in doubt. In terms of his age and his injury concerns, even though he was kind of, you know, I think he was available for 33 games last year. You probably not, unless it's an offer from the Middle East, you're not going to get 40+ million for Partey. We've been linked with Mohamed Kudus for the last few months. We've aggressively linked with him around the Winter World Cup. Obviously, he's a versatile player, can play in a number of roles. He's 22 years of age. We also have a decent relationship, I imagine, with Ajax. We tried to get Lisandro Martinez. We did get Timber. And I'd imagine there's a lot of clubs interested in Kudus. Now, I'm having Kudus because that could be someone that could legitimately fill in and challenge Saka on the right-hand side. He can obviously play as a 10. He can play in midfield. He's 22 years of age. He ties into what we have, and he's a quality player. He's shown it for Ajax, and he's shown it for Ghana during the World Cup, people. And there's a lot of scope for him to improve. And the main attraction could probably versatility. You can play him in a couple of roles. I'm sure he has an organic position he would like to play in. You know, as it says here, the 22-year-old can play in a conventional central midfield role, in a more advanced position, or even on the wing. His versatility is known to be particularly attractive to Arsenal's recruitment staff, and we've got a bunch of players that can fill in a couple of roles, whether, you know, you're like Declan Rice, you can play centre half and play a couple of different roles in midfield, as does the same could be said for Fabio Vieira, Kai Havertz, Smith Rowe, Martin Odegaard, Zinchenko, technically Tomiyasu, Benjamin White, Timber, and I'm probably missing, you know, technically Jesus. There's a bunch of players, Martinelli, Trossard, that can play in multiple roles, slyly even Kyrgios as well. Apparently, Kudus is also of interest to Brighton this summer, and what Brighton do for players, how they develop the platform, and the fact that he's probably more likely to start and play more games for Brighton means that's probably a somewhat attraction, and he won't be short of interest. As I always say, everybody's interested in everyone. You know, it's a bit like in our case with Balogun. Balogun's probably drawing interest from a lot of clubs. You know, in terms of the striker market, which there isn't too much quality, he's probably flagged on the radar of several recruitment staff to varying degrees. but being interested and opening dialogue with Arsenal and starting negotiations and things of that ilk are completely different things, people. So yeah, this article has said what we already know. We know we have an interest in Kudus. Again, it's come up again in July, so that must mean there's some legs to it. We know we need to get rid of players. We all know Thomas Partey's future is subject to speculation, and apparently we have started the process of also identifying replacements for our outgoing head of medicine, Gary O'Driscoll, who, as we know, after a transitional period, will be moving to Manchester United. O'Driscoll is expected to see out a lengthy notice period before taking up his position at Old Trafford, allowing the club to carry out a full recruitment process, though Mailsport understands the Premier League's chief medical officer, Mark Gillett, who has vast experience in English football, having previously worked at Chelsea and West Brom, is among those the Gunners would like to talk to. So yeah, smash the like button, people. Let me know your thoughts on Mohamed Kudus, and also, you know, if you would take him, if you think he's someone that could help with our squad, etc. Subscribe if you haven't. Moving on with stuff. Ben Jacobs said, for many months now, Declan Rice only wanted Arsenal. In fact, even City had matched the 105 million package. Rice still would have picked Arsenal. That's partly why City pulled out. Their only real hope was to trump Arsenal's package. And I mean, whether City could have got him or not, kind of redundant. We've got our man. It's as simple as that. Moving on with some of these other tabs. Once again, it's understood that Arsenal are not eager to sell Partey this summer, with only a huge offer likely to entice the club into sanctioning his departure. So is it a thing where we're probably not going to buy another number 6 or another 8, or just simply put another central midfield addition, having got Partey on paper, having got Jorginho, having got El Nene, having obviously got Declan Rice, and as I just said and alluded to, you've got Odegaard, Smith Rowe, Fabio Vieira, Havertz. I don't think Arteta is convinced on Zinchenko starting in midfield, but Zinchenko, maybe the need for a midfielder internally at the club is not as highly as I think. I think there's scope, whether it's another number 8 or a 6. I think there's scope to bring someone in. Personally, I would like to see another midfielder come in and obviously retain Partey along with Declan Rice. You've got Rice and Partey in games where it's calls for physicality. You know, I actually think both of them will complement each other, not just in a defensive sense and a ball winning sense and a physicality sense, but they've both got wonderful technical moves. A lot of the team goals we've scored, Partey has been involved in them. And with, you know, him having support, that it's not just him in the middle third of the pitch having to sweep up with Rice, that could entice him. And likewise, that will happen with Rice. Obviously, you'd imagine Kai Havertz, who didn't have the best of MLS skill challenge things, you know, if I'm honestly looking at the clips. Obviously, I do think Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, and Odegaard is something Mikel Arteta wants to gel into the team. You know, whether it's 2 6s and an 8, whether it's 3 10s, whether it's rotating 8s and a 6 at the base. I'm all for these, you know, these sort of things we could do in midfield and ultimately just make ourselves a bit more unpredictable, folks. And I'm sure you lot will as well. Let's pause this. Oh, we don't need any copyright strikes on YouTube. Dharma Sheffer said, also keep an eye on another midfielder. There's a lot of interest in Partey. Big clubs like Arsenal will be doing due diligence on all sorts of players in case you have a scenario where one of the players wants to leave. And as you know, we've been very proactive in the market. Now, in a nice way, I think it's time to be reactive in that we've done the bulk of our business and now we can be attentive to market opportunities that we didn't, or, you know, that we didn't think were available, or players that have become available now that we might have been told months before, or in the early weeks, of the transfer window, that they weren't. We all know we've been linked to central midfielders. Again, in the last week, the various media outlets have said Arsenal are keeping an eye on the right-hand side of midfield, in which technically Kudus could play. Moussa Diaby looks like he could be going to Aston Villa. But as Darmashev says here, I've just been told to keep an eye on the attacking right side of the pitch. They tried to sign Rafinha last summer. They're also interested in Diaby. It would also require a few departures and money to be recouped. Now, on the bulk of it, it seems like if you was to look at Arsenal's depth, you could throw probably defense in there, even though Arteta might want to bring someone in. I think we need more midfield options. I think in the final third, you know, not necessarily on the right. We know we don't have a lot of options there, but we have a lot of bodies and people who can play out wide. If another striker walked into the club, or just in general, you know, Jesus can play out there, Trossard, Martinelli, Smith Rowe, Reece Nelson is also there. We'd all like someone that can play on the right-hand side and potentially compete with Saka, and if he's not fit or he needs a rest, or someone that arguably could take his place, even though I think that's unrealistic. And again, if we did sign Rafinha and Mudryk and all of these guys and Vlahovic, if we got those 3 signings in, and assuming the same things that happened actually in January in this summer to date so far were a thing, it does feel like we're a bit bloated. Obviously, Kai Havertz can play in the final third as well. I would like a right winger. Rafinha seems to be as a player that would want to play week in, week out. And obviously, you've got Saka. I know Saka can play on the left, but I'm happy with a left footer cutting in on the right on top of Saka's obvious quality. So it all depends, really. But, we got 80 odd goals last season. If the boys can keep scoring, if people who, didn't necessarily score last season can chip in, if you could bring in a striker that gets us 20 plus league goals, obviously, if Jesus could stay fit, if you could bring in another right winger, dependent on the game time they could play, then we need to turn that 80 goals. As Arteta said a few years ago, we need to go from, we need to be a team that could score 100 goals, really. And that could be the bridge, 20 plus goals could be the difference with turning a couple losses into draws / victories, a couple draws into victories, and ultimately getting closer to Manchester City. But I do think we're probably going to focus on departures, people, before anything. I mean, Reece Nelson, when he signed the new contract, Arteta must have told him how he features in the team, how he can play on a more regular basis. But maybe that, keeping Nelson kind of is a safety net for us if we can't bring in a winger, really and truly. Kai Havertz, for what it's worth, has been earmarked to replace Xhaka in the left 8 role, but it was considered feasible because Mikel Arteta sees Declan Rice as having the athleticism, ball winning ability needed to complement Havertz and Odegaard either side of him. So that tells you it's a 6 and 2 rotated 8. Now, again, it is a multi-system. It won't exactly be fixated, but that tells you that's probably our long-term what Mikel wants to do. On Declan Rice, he said his leadership, his aura, obviously the experience he already has in the league, he's going to bring the team to a different dimension. He's got the physical qualities that we've been missing for a while. That's why we had to do what we had to do to get him, because he's really important to us. And that tells you, Declan Rice, we probably overpaid, but it's a means to an end, and he'll justify his price tag. And sometimes in life, you have to overpay to get quality, essentially, people. Liverpool with Van Dijk and Alisson, I'm sure they didn't want to pay what they paid for either person from a business sense, but they reap the benefits. Sometimes you have to overpay. He also called him a lighthouse, people. I see him like a lighthouse. He'll light up the others and improve the others and make the team better. The way he talks, the ambition he has, the passion for the game is exactly what we need. A while ago, we spoke about players that could complement each other, give us more flexibility, more depth, and more quality, and take winning hunger into the team with players who really want to push themselves to a different level. Again, I guess we'll get to see in action Declan Rice in our next pre-season game. I will be doing a watch along for that. I think it kicks off at 1:30 a.m. UK time, so I'll be live from 12:30. Make sure you're turning on your notifications and you're aware of that. Moving on, no clue why I have all of these tabs. Arsenal have tentatively been linked with João Felix again, but he's probably burnt all his bridges with Arsenal and probably every other club, because he said, I'd like to play for Barcelona. Barcelona has always been my first choice, and I'd love to join Barca. It was always my dream since I was a kid. If it happens, it'll be a dream come true for me. As we know, it appears that he has no future, essentially, at Atletico. Whether Barcelona have the finances or creative accountants to sign the Portuguese man is another thing. Hasn't he got the same agent as George Mendes, another player that Barcelona have been linked to? Bernardo Silva in George Mendes, another player they've been linked to. Barca's intention is to try and find a way to sign Felix. It won't be easy. The player wants to move, but negotiations with Atletico are never easy. We've seen them get Arda Turan and, deal with Arda Turan with Barca and Atletico, obviously Griezmann as well. Saliba's been speaking about his ambitions, about Mikel Arteta not speaking to him before for a week and stuff like that. In an exclusive interview with, I believe, the Daily Mail, people, he has spoken about it, really. He said he used to be a striker in his early teens, people. And as usual, as he's got fantastic feet for a big man and a centre-half. But clearly, if Saliba was a striker, he probably wouldn't be at Arsenal Football Club. Fortunately, he's a centre-back and a good one, with potential to be a great one. I was a good goal scorer. I was strong. I was technical as well. My worst quality was maybe I was lazy and I was nonchalant. Boy, in a nice way, you kind of see that in his game, the nonchalantness, like it's in a nice way. It's like he's never phased. He's got the composure levels of a madman. The guy is he's so graceful. Saliba, quality player. And in a day and age where money costs a lot, and Arsenal have made a lot of wrong decisions in the last 5 years, Mikel Arteta is changing them. When you look at the fact of Saka's been promoted to the first team and gone from strength to strength to go with obviously the coaching staff he has, that saved us 100 odd million. If we tried to buy Saka from a British club, how much is that? Obviously, the scouts did well with £6 million Martinelli. Look what he's doing in a day and age where money is ridiculous. Odegaard has become a key player for Arsenal for signing for 30 odd million quid, and Saliba was signed for 20 odd million, 30 odd million, and he's got potential to be a madman. And again, we all know the fee if he was at another club, what it would take. He said Mikel Arteta I think he's been speaking about Arteta people. Anyways, I'm not too sure, but let's just read everything Saliba said. He was a good coach and he really helped me at this age. He told the truth. Even if you were young, the message he told me was, yeah, you're a good striker, but I think you'll become a defensive midfielder. So I think this is about a previous coach. Scrolling all the way down, he spoke on his admirations for Van Dijk. I know fans like to do the rival thing. Saliba's looking at Van Dijk. You'd be an idiot to be a centre half and if you want to get better, not look at the greats of this game, the Tony Adams, shameless Arsenal plug, the Fabio Cannavaros, the Rios, the Terrys, even though I don't like to say that individual's name, the Sol Campbells, etc. And in the present day, you'd be an idiot not to look at Van Dijk. I think there's a lot of similarities between Van Dijk and Saliba, and I'm sure Van Dijk's achieved everything Saliba would love to, and more, really and truly. As you know, he's won everything there is to offer, more or less, in terms of major honours for Liverpool, excluding the FA Cup. I don't think they've won that. They might have. They might have actually beat Chelsea at Wembley. But yeah, Van Dijk's gone from strength to strength, essentially. And we'd like to see that. He said, I still watch him. I really like his quality in 1-against-1. And there's a lot of similarities, I feel, between Saliba and Van Dijk. His calmness, his composure, and his long balls as well. I mean, Van Dijk has a lovely passing range. He has everything. And for me, he was a good defender to learn from. I think he was, for 2 or 3 years, the best defender in the world. And then he also said, does he believe he has the qualities to be the world's best? He said, of course I have the quality, but that means nothing. And it doesn't mean nothing unless you show it, prove it, and work hard. You have to work hard to go to this level. So I'm not close to this level, but I'll give everything to one day become maybe the best defender in the world. He then spoke on Mikel Arteta, and again, Mikel Arteta, to the fans, he might be disillusioning players, but there's always a method to his madness. I really love Mikel Arteta. He said, I'm not surprised because I knew that I had a good time on loan. I knew I was ready. I was just waiting for my chance. I'm looking forward to the future with this club. The future will be good for everyone. I hope it won't be easy, but we'll work hard for this. And I know the club will be back at the very, very top. We have to do everything to win every possible title. And he also said, I was so excited to do pre-season with the team and try to play in the Premier League and the Europa League. And then apparently he was met with total silence from Mikel Arteta, allegedly. He said hello to me the first day. Then after that, he didn't speak to me for a week. I told myself to be good on the pitch, to give him a solution, to tell him, yeah, I'm ready. And this is as much as Arteta is good from a technical and tactical front, he's playing, man management, he's playing 4D chess. You've seen it before, really. I look at stuff like this. I remember Balogun talking when he went out on loan, and he said, when you went out on loan, Balogun was told by Arteta, I want you to develop as a man. And it was a bit of an open-ending question. We've all seen in the Haaland documentary the inner workings that Arteta does. And, Saliba could have reacted negatively to this, but Arteta kind of gauged his character and knew that he would get a good reaction. There's probably some people within the team that if Arteta did this with, he would get a different reaction. So it's about reading the characters, people. But Saliba's right. Give Arteta no chance to ignore you anymore. Many people could have crumbled and felt sorry for themselves after the money they were sent for and all of these things. He then went on to say, people, we had a great season. We learned a lot. We know that the Premier League is hard and long. We cannot wait to start again to try and win it. At the end, we remember always the winning team, not the second. Facts. It's good that I became an important player. I was angry to not be with this team in key moments, but of course it is football. Sometimes there are injuries. I've worked hard to be back at my best and to not have any more injuries this season. I mean, they're always going to happen. He then spoke on his relationship with Gabriel, his centre-half colleague. I've known since Liga because I've played against him. We speak the same language, French, so it's easier for us. He's a really good guy and a guy who really wants to win and a good leader. He then said, have they got a bond off the pitch? Yes, of course. Not a lot because I see him enough at the training ground. He's got big quality in relation to Arteta. He keeps everyone together. We do a lot of things off the pitch as well to be more together. They go out for meals. They play games. They go bowling. We've all seen we've got a dog. We're planting olive trees. We're doing light bulbs. This is all about creating a family environment and wanting to fight for each other a bit more and all of that sort of stuff. So these are things that are not necessarily exclusive to Arsenal, but they're things our gaffer does. It's good to see each other away from the club and without pressure. And then he also said on the escape rooms and the competitiveness of Arsenal off the pitch, he said they're competitive. I don't know why, but I'm not the best at these games. I weren't the best at escape room either. The Indonos are saying that obviously we are trying to sign Kudus, and it's my understanding, says Mr. Oli, with the Mohamed Kudus situation, that Arsenal have a really amicable relationship with IS. Both clubs are on top terms. If Arsenal was to push for the player, there's a good foundation for business to take place. And that's why he'd be nice to everyone. Whether that happens, I don't know. Odegaard spoken in relation to Declan Rice. Every time I've played against him, I saw his quality. He's a leader as well. So it's great for me to work together and hopefully we can help each other a lot. Every time I've played against him was a tough one. We had some good battles. So I'm happy to have him on the team and hopefully we can find a good connection very quickly. on our new signings. I try to speak to them to see if they need something or if I need to explain something to them on the pitch about how we do things. Just making sure they feel welcome and to help the team understand our game model. I think when players come in, it can be tricky to understand everything we do. So just helping them with small things. But I think this team is great at welcoming new players. We're like a family. We're really together. I feel like they're happy and part of the team and family already. We have just managed to get him, says Mikel Arteta, in relation to Declan Rice. A lot has happened to him in the last 4 or 6 days, a very hectic schedule. He had a few training sessions, so that was really good. But prior to that, he didn't do much before he joined us. So we just wanted to manage him. He trained with us today. He was in good form and he's fine. Lovely to see. Fabrizio has poured cold water on Kudus links. There's not currently any Arsenal negotiations for Mohamed Kudus. Their priority is to sell players now, but Kudus is on Brighton's list. So we'll have to see how these things develop exactly, folks. With that, Pepe apparently is aware that he'll be leaving the club. I mean, we already know this. But anyways, Chris Wheatley has said, so Arsenal exploring different ways to end his time at the club. There's been talks of a potential mutual termination, which of course Arsenal have done in the past with players. I think they're going to have to cut their losses there if they do, because of course we've just spoken about his transfer fee, 72.5 million. It was the record before Declan Rice's arrival last week. I think Arsenal can still get a fee for the player, but it all depends really on the interest. And of course, Pepe has to be open to joining that club as well. As I said before, there's a few teams interested in Spain, in France, and I do feel like Pepe knows that his time at the club is up. I don't expect him to be involved in Arsenal's pre-season, and if he does, it will just be a formality before completing the move away. Pepe, we expect him to be on his way out fairly soon. So hopefully, really, because it's not fair for anyone. It's not fair for the fans. It's not fair for the club. It's not fair to Pepe. It's not fair to Arteta. Resolution needs to be found, really and truly. We've already spoken about this, so I won't bore you lot anyways. But yeah, in relation to Kudus, Saliba, Declan Rice, and all the other talking points, I think that's all we've got to cover this morning. There'll be a bunch of videos coming out from me. I've got a video coming out with the different knock, which will come out after this stream. So make sure you've got your notification bells on. Obviously, it's watch along settings. We kick off at 1:30, so I'll be live from 12:30 UK time. On that note, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't, turn on your notifications. Have a great week, people. I hope you're doing well and safe and you're in good spirits. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you lot again soon.
There's always just that active red flag, defending.
I think it's like